Well, the time's just gone 11 minutes past 5 as we continue with the broadcast on the Iftar Drive this afternoon with myself, Inayet Wadee. Now, Benjamin Netanyahu is under pressure, and we've heard of these protests that have been taking place in Israel as a result of the sacking of the defense minister. And this has been quite huge. Uh, Protests that have been taking place, and just to unpack what these protests actually mean after the firing of the defense minister, we are going across now to Jerusalem, and we are joined by none other than Professor Jeff Halper. Professor Jeff Halper, good afternoon to you, sir, and welcome to the show.
Okay, it's good to be back.
Prof, can you hear me?
Now I can hear you. You froze for a second. Can you hear me?
See, we can't get you on a better line. There seems to be. There we go, Prof. Okay, continue. Good evening to you.
Okay, good evening to you and Ramadan Mubarak.
Thank you, sir. Yes, let's talk about these protests that have been taking place, and we've seen thousands and thousands of actually people have taken to the streets after the firing of the defense minister. What do we know in terms of the defense minister and some of the issues that have been playing out that led to his sacking?
Well, as you know, we're in the middle of this whole crisis here in Israel, and in which the government of Netanyahu is seeking to basically neutralize the Supreme Court and really make the government, the parliament, the supreme rule maker, lawmaker, and in effect, it's a coup. I mean, it's allowing the politicians to take over all the courts and all the mechanisms of the state. And there's been a tremendous outpouring of people to save Israeli democracy. We can talk about that. That's a problematic concept. We can talk about that afterwards. But that's the idea. And in the last couple of days, more than 500,000 Israelis have gone out in the streets. I was just in the demonstration. I live very close to the parliament, so I was just out in the demonstration itself. And it's really a lot of it's not only the left and not only the liberals and so on, but actually there's quite a few religious people, quite a few people that identify more with the right. I think actually a lot of Likud people, according to the polls, a third of the Likud members of Netanyahu's own party are against this coup, this judicial coup. And so there's a tremendous uproar. And then, of course, in the middle of all this, Gallant, who is the Minister of Defense, got on TV last night and said this is all posing a real security threat to Israel, because a lot of the members of the army and the armed forces, especially in reserves, are threatening not to show up for reserve duty, and that includes pilots that they really need. We're facing Iran.
Yes, Prof, I think we are having a bit of a problem. The sound quality is not coming through, so perhaps.
Okay, sorry about that.
Yes, sorry, Prof. We did lose you there, but there have been connection issues that have been playing out. So we're going to go for an ad break. We'll be back.
Okay, all right.
Masterpiece. Droplets of gold inspires precious design. Platinum bursts with intricate freshness, and every pure diamond becomes more than just a girl's best friend. Voda Gold Gem Jewelers, where timeless dreams become a reality. Come to us. We tailor-make designer gold, platinum, and diamond jewelry. Trade in or remodel your old gold. Clad yourself with classy name-branded watches. We offer insurance valuation and free zakat calculation. Visit us at 534 Ridge Road, Overport, or call 031 208 9142. Voda Gold Gem Jewelers, manufacturers of fine gold and diamond jewelry.
After 11 years, Syria remains the world's largest refugee crisis.
We didn't flee from Assad just to come and die here.
More than 6.8 million Syrians have been forced to flee their country since 2011.
All of my country destroyed now, and I fear about my children.
And another 6.9 million remain internally displaced.
Our condition is very bad. We have no proper tents, nor a proper living. I have 10 children and we do not get any aid.
The vast majority, approximately 5.2 million refugees, have found refuge in neighboring countries such as Turkey, Lebanon and Jordan. Penny Appeal South Africa has been distributing hot meals and food parcels to food insecure families and provided mobile housing to those in need. Your donation, no matter how small, can make a big difference. Visit our website www.pennyappeal.org.za or call us on 031 110 0573. Penny Appeal South Africa. Small change, big difference.
Southern Africa Dawah Network is a non-profit organization striving to uplift the disadvantaged and empowering through education and dawah. Donate to the SADN centers, the M.A. Motala Islamic Center, as well as our Islamic centers in Amoti, Imtalumi, Botshabelo and Castile. Donate your zakat and lillah today. Contact Farooq Sheikh 076 321 0650, Yusuf Mohammadi 072 259 3457, or the SADN head office 031 304 8000. Our account, Standard Bank, account number 050-856-294 for your zakat, or 050-879-790 for your lillah. Dawah through education, education through dawah, the Southern Africa Dawah Network.
Freedom Stationery supply Marlin and Marlin Kids pens to me and my school friends. They supply just about everything we need to help us get a better education. From books to files to rulers. In fact, any any accessory we need. Freedom Stationery. Education for the nation. What does accessory mean?
For a long time, we've lived in a centralized world where institutions held the all-important data and confirmed all transactions. Those times are over. Welcome to Libertas Group, a blockchain development company boasting an ecosystem that continually redefines the way we do business. Our blockchain is decentralized, making it immune to hacking or alteration, putting the power back in your hands with no middleman so you can focus on the growth of your business. Libertas, the simplest investment choice you'll make.
Connect and stay ahead with Salam Media. This is Salam Media, coming to you live from South Africa.
Well, the time is just gone, 19 minutes past 5 as we continue with the broadcast, and we need to apologize for the break on connection. And recently, we know that these connection issues are causing havoc right across the entire country. Batteries being weakened at towers, and this is all as a result of the power problem that we are experiencing here in South Africa. And sadly, this is an issue that we need to get used to. But coming back to what we are talking about, and we are talking about Israeli Prime Minister, we're talking about Benjamin Netanyahu and the sacking of his defense minister, Yoav Gallant. And we are now once again connected with Professor Jeff Halper just to understand and to unpack what is actually playing out. And Prof, all of this is about the judicial overhaul, and this would give the executive control over a number of issues, many issues, appointing judges to the Supreme Court, allowing the government to override court rulings. Now, all of this comes at a time where Netanyahu has also been on trial for corruption charges, which he denies.
That's right. That's right. And and so really there's been a popular revolt in the country. Hundreds of thousands of people have gone out on the street to protect the Israeli democracy, um, uh, including, as I mentioned before, I don't know if you heard, including about a third of the members of Netanyahu's own party, of the Likud, are opposed to this judicial. It's not an overhaul, it's really a judicial coup of allowing Netanyahu and his party and his government to take over the legal system, the judicial system. Now, and then in the wake of all that, Gallant, who's the defense minister, said that, because of all the protests, the members of the military, both career people and reservists, are threatening not to do their military service. And he says this is a real security threat to Israel. And on that basis, he got on TV last night and appealed to the government, his own government, and Netanyahu, to stop this whole process of, the whole parliamentary process of passing these laws that would change the entire judiciary. On that basis, hundreds of thousands of people in the streets, and it looked as defense minister, and he's going to announce the freezing of all the parliamentary processes that lead to this whole, to this judicial coup. So that will calm things down, maybe for a while. But of course, the demand is to completely cancel this judicial coup, not simply to postpone it. And so we'll see what happens in the future. But right now, especially as the Passover holiday comes, especially as the Independence Day, the 75th Independence Day of Israel comes along, the government's very interested in quiet. And so I think the government's going to retreat, at least for the next month or so, from this coup that they threatened to carry out.
Yes, but just coming back to a person like Netanyahu, who's been clouded with one controversy after the controversy, with the corruption charges as well, Prof. Jeff Halper, and just looking at, how does the electorate still put faith and confidence in someone of the caliber of Benjamin Netanyahu to lead the country? And once again, with this latest developments, again another blot in his career, because this is his own people that are telling him that, listen, you can't get away with these things all the time.
Well, that's right. I mean, look, I don't agree with him at all. He's a right-wing fascist guy. But he was a competent prime minister for many of the years. Over the last 12 years or so, he's been prime minister. And until he got into his legal problems, the corruption, he's under 3 different trials for corruption and fraud and so on. Until then, he was competent. I didn't like his policies, but he was competent and a very good politician and popular. But he lost it when he was finally brought to court, because he's facing even jail time. These are serious charges, and this whole judicial coup, in many ways, is his own personal attempt to appoint judges that will be, of course, judges that will, in the end, when it comes to he appeals to the Supreme Court, if he gets convicted, will overturn his conviction. So that's really a lot of what's driving this whole thing, and he's just lost it. I mean, he's completely given up on politics. He's distracted. He's not in control of his own government. He's completely preoccupied and scared by this legal thing. And so he doesn't see anything around him. And he's really getting to a point where he isn't popular at all. His party's losing a lot of seats. And, it took him, don't forget, the last 4 elections before he was able to set up a very fragile government. So he's not popular, and certainly this coup is not popular. And I think this is the end of Netanyahu's career. The other problem is, of course, in many countries, is there is no good leader of the left or the liberal part of Israeli society. You know, you've got this Yair Lapid, and you have Gantz, and Benjamin Gantz, who's in the opposition, is really a Likud person. He just doesn't like Netanyahu. So in a way, Israelis don't have a choice between right and left. You have a choice between one right wing with Netanyahu and another right wing with figures that aren't really very competent. And so I think the Israeli electorate is dissatisfied, but has nowhere else to go. And Netanyahu is still seen as the most competent of all the politicians around.
Yes, and also I think this is looking at Israel as a democracy, and how mature a democracy is Israel, considering that these protests are taking place.
Well, that's exactly the issue. Israel is a very vibrant democracy if you're Jewish. You see, so the subtext of all of this is really, save our Jewish democracy. In other words, even the symbol of the protest is the Israeli flag. In other words, the opponents of the judicial reform have co-opted the symbol of the country, which is the flag that was always a symbol of the right wing. But at the same time, what's the Israeli flag? It's a Star of David. So it only represents the Jews in this country. It doesn't represent all the citizens of the country. It doesn't represent Palestinians that live in Israel, even Palestinian citizens of Israel. And that's why Palestinian citizens are not really part of these protests, because even if you save Israeli democracy, they're still second and third class citizens. And then there's another element, of course, and that is, everybody's looking at Israel. Israelis look at Israel as a state without the occupied territory. The occupation is sort of there. Nobody thinks about it. And so when they talk about Israel, they mean the Israel within the Green Line, within the 1967 borders. But in fact, Israel is an occupying power, and Israel rules the entire country in an apartheid style from the Mediterranean to the Jordan River. So the next question is not only what about the Palestinian citizens of Israel that aren't included in the Israeli democracy, but what about all the millions of Palestinians in the occupied territory that have no citizenship at all? Can you really be a democracy and keep millions of people under occupation with no civil or human rights? But these aren't questions, to tell you the truth, that Israelis ask. Even Israelis on the left, to some degree, they're Israeli. They live in Israel. They see in Israel. It's a closed kind of a thing, and they don't really think about they don't come in contact with Palestinian citizens, and certainly not with people in the West Bank or Gaza. And so, in a way, it's a very internal, intra-Jewish, kind of argument between the Israeli Jewish right and the Israeli Jewish left, and really all the real issues of democracy and human rights and Palestinian freedoms are outside of the discussion. And that's why I don't go to these demonstrations. I don't go to demonstrations with Israeli flags, because even the very idea of an Israeli flag means that even Israel itself, leave aside the occupation, cannot be a state of all its citizens, because the flag itself excludes 20% of the population that's Palestinian. So but at the same time, let me just say this, that in a way, though, for all of that, this is giving a certain opening. There are people that are beginning to say, look, there is an internal contradiction here. And maybe if we're talking about democracy, what about occupation? And you do see people with signs that say you can't have a democracy with occupation. So hopefully this discussion, even though it's an internal Jewish one, will begin to open up cracks and questions and issues that can lead us later on to deal with the wider issues of what about Palestinians.
Well, Prof, thank you very much for that. It's always an absolute pleasure having you with us and unpacking all these matters for us and also your analysis. So we do appreciate you taking time out. We wish you all the best and please take care.
All right. Thank you again and again, Ramadan Kareem.
Prof.
To
Jeff
everyone.
Halper, Director, Israeli Committee Against House Demolitions, with us live out of Jerusalem this afternoon. We're going to go for a break. We come back and we are looking at Buka and Ibukap, and we are talking about Iftar, and this is a Bukap community collaboration. We will be talking with Shafwan Al-Lobsha.